And hello, my friends, and welcome to this new episode of Learning from the Masters, the last episode before we take a well deserved holiday break. So I hope everyone's having a wonderful time. It's going to be an exciting episode because, look at it. Diego Velázquez finally had a comeback in the polls. So like last time, I asked you guys which artist you'd be interested in, and you guys give a huge favor to Velázquez this time. He was second last time, and this time he just had his revenge, and he's in the course. So sorry for Freud, Zain. I know that you're an admirer, but still not cutting it. Hello, McPollins. Salut, Chris. Hi, Polar Bear. Hi, Fimox. Can't wait till Christmas. Yeah, it's going to be pretty soon, right? So really exciting. So yeah, Velázquez, awesome artist, and lots of things to say. As always, as a disclaimer, if it's your first time watching, if you're watching the replay or whatever, I'm not in any case an expert on Velázquez. I'm not an expert in the history of art. I know practically nothing about the actual technique. I'm just like everyone else. I'm just gonna go ahead and look at the paintings and just talk and have a conversation with you guys. So this is not a course. This is not how to paint like Velázquez. It's just me looking at it and trying to think and trying to reflect on what art is, and lots of things to say about Velázquez. So pretty interesting episode for sure. So how is it going? Il fait pas mal de clair-obscur. En effet, donc les clairs-obscurs étaient importants, surtout au début de sa carrière. Et donc, on verra un petit peu, un peu plus en détail comment le Caravage, justement, l'a influencé. Alright, so I was talking with Chris in French right now about how Velázquez had a decent amount of chiaroscuro in his painting, and the fact is that his early like main style was very deeply influenced by the Caravaggio. He was very baroque in the way he experimented, in the way he tried to improve stylistically. So, but I don't necessarily want to, like, generally I try to start, like, no, I have no specific order. Let's go straight into the good things right there and go straight into the Meninas, because I don't know, I want to start with this one. Of course, it's the most famous one, and it's not famous for no reason, and I think there's lots of things to learn. So first of all, let's try to first learn about the technique, and let's just look at this. All right, pretty straightforward. So for whoever is interested in how Velázquez actually painted, you can see that right there. So I think that's going to be a good starting point for us, looking at it from an artist perspective. It's going to be interesting. So very limited palette, right? Who else is painting here with that little colors? Salut Amélie. Hi Mike. Why do you pronounce like meninas like that? I think because I suck at Spanish, so Las Meninas. I don't know. How do you pronounce that? All right, so let's So this was obviously flake white, because titanium white, for those who don't know, was introduced beginning of the 19th century, so not that long ago. But before that, it was flake white, and even zinc white was is pretty modern relative to us. So flake white, of course. So I would say red ochre, yellow ochre. This could be, so this is hard to tell. So some umbers, I don't know which ones. Maybe something like Venetian red. Sure, it's ochres. The blue was probably this one. I don't know. It's hard to tell. Let's check. Maybe, yeah, lapis lazuli, but it's not that like the old and very expensive original ultramarine blue, like what we use today as ultramarine blue, is a chemical replicate of lapis lazuli. And we can even say, I think, that maybe the chemical, like synthetic blue, ultramarine blue that we have is probably better. At least it's a lot less expensive, so that's a good thing. And I don't think he used that much of it. So maybe just did his blue with ivory black and white. Probably as simple as this. Yeah, red oxide for the red here, red oxide. So could be Venetian red if you call it that. It's basically the same pigment, red oxide. Basically rust, if you guys were wondering. All right. Okay. Why don't you speak in French? Because most of the people here will understand better if I speak English. I've got people from all over the place, but I can speak French. If people speak in French, I answer in French. That's as simple. Bonsoir Guillermo. Si, je trouve que le Caravage donnait plus de réalisme, c'est peut-être dû à la différence de style selon l'époque. Je crois que c'est surtout lié au fait que le Caravage essayait d'avoir un style réaliste et assez découpé, tandis qu'avec Velázquez, on a déjà cette idée de coups de pinceau très énergique et laisser les bords un peu flous. C'est ça qui rend cet aspect beaucoup plus atmosphérique et moins dans le réalisme, tu sais, la reproduction précise de l'objet avec un clair découpage des contours. Je pense que c'est ça qui crée la plus grande différence. Et sachant que Velázquez est allé beaucoup plus dans une recherche stylistique, on va dire. Alright, so we were talking about realism and how Velázquez, if so those who don't understand, realism and how Velázquez was less in a realistic style than Caravaggio. And I suggested that this is because of all these edges and how the edges are not clearly cut out and that everything is kind of washed out, blended away in a very bold manner, in a way, which makes everything like more atmospheric. Rich Lovato, you're right about saying that. So Velázquez also used, I should add that, looking at the pad. Velázquez was famous for adding marble dust, basically, or chalk, like white chalk, to his colors, mainly for the purpose of not using as much white lead oxide pigment, and also it saves on the grinding. Don't forget that at the time they had to grind everything from scratch. So it's basically like adding a filler. It's basically like adding, like what you get sometimes in student grades, in student paint, like student quality paint. I mean, like they add a filler so that you have not the same concentration of pigment. You have this marble dust that fills part of the paint. So it's basically the same, and he used it to have a more like textury, more consistency, but like have a like some type of bring somebody without bringing fluidity, sort of, you could say that. And hello, Kite Runner says hello from Turkey. And Polar Bear having some storm. No, not storm. Wasn't a storm. All right, good. I'm happy about it. Happy didn't have to be in a snowstorm. How does he do that? The brewery thing. So it's basically just working wet on wet. Like all this. It's just working wet on wet. So you work on this. You use some of this color, boom, and you use some of the other color next to it, boom, and then a little bit more of this one, boom, and then a little bit more of this one, and again until you have something very blurry. And it's all about handling brushstrokes. So basically with Velázquez you learn how much brush handling affects the look of the painting, and not just, of course you know that brush handling affects the look of a painting, like if you see some apparent brush strokes, but also the fact that he has such a limited palette. You have to realize that with such a limited palette, everything would look very dull if the brush handling is not efficient. So you have to try to disturb the colors the least, to not disturb the colors as much as possible. If I can, I don't know if it's a proper sentence, but who cares? So basically you have to work, especially when you have such a limited selection of colors, your brush handling plays a great role in how vibrant the colors are going to look. It's basically the same thing that I demonstrated in my, the video on blending and color mixing that I did on my channel, so you can check it out. Blending and brushwork, I think. So you can check it out. It's the same idea. It's that color mixing on the palette is not the only thing responsible for how colors look on the final piece, and that the brush handling and how you carry the paint onto the canvas with your brush is tremendously important for that type of thing. Remind me of Zorn's colors. Yeah, I don't know about the Zorn's palette, but there is actually the same type of approach in many of his handling, and lots of things are similar to Sargent as well. Like very the way he painted fabric, hair, things like this are very reminiscent of Sargent. I think Sargent was an admirer of Velázquez as well. Many people were admirers of Velázquez. You have many angles which can lead you to admiring Velázquez. That's the thing. You can admire him for many things, like composition, conveying human emotions, many things, and all things are at play here in this in this painting, which is why I wanted to start with this one. So I'm just gonna try to look at what you guys are saying, and after that I will start with my idea, which is going to be awesome. Look, I'm selling my idea as before. All right. So did he use different brush for each color? Well, I think he has a decent amount of brushes right there in his hand, like I would say he would use 8 brushes constantly, and a maul stick. So, but the palette is very, very small, very light. So it was very mobile, which is one thing. Very mobile. This explains the small palette. Sometimes a small palette is better, and it explains probably also that he would work on like chunks of the painting, because otherwise you would need a much more palette. But I think for paintings like this one, he probably had a huge stack of material here somewhere, just didn't include it in the painting. There's too many things to talk about with this painting. We could spend weeks and months, or even like be there until like, I mean, next year talking about this painting, because there's many things to say about this one. So I'm gonna try to remain I don't know, I have no word, but I'm gonna try to refrain myself from saying too many things. Like Rembrandt did the same thing to get impasto effect, like adding marble dust. Marble dust is a prime ingredient of impasto paste in any way, because it gives a great some body. You don't have to use that much medium, and like brings some matter. That's the important thing about the calcium carbonate, which is marble dust, or white chalk, which is basically similar. All right. So hello, Seven Sun. Hello everyone that I forgot to say hello to. Hello, Kelly Ramirez. So, well, I wanted to talk about, also my idea was, alright, so Velázquez, young artist from Sevilla, I don't know how you pronounce that. I'm not good at Spanish, and alright, so correct me if I'm not properly saying. So, introduced to the court of Spain, where, so this guy that you can see right there in the mirror is Philip IV. So the king of Spain, basically. Spain was very rich and influential country at the time because of the colonization of America, and money was flowing, and the rich, this king was very rich and successful, and so depicting the good life of the golden era of the court. So he was a court painter. And what's funny about court painting is that most of the time you would get something very most of the time you'd have something, very flattering. You have to display the king in a flattering manner. You're not here to depict anything negative. You want to reflect something positive. You want to give it an idea of power and all. But the thing with Velázquez is that so basically painting kings and queens, you have to be flattering on one side. But the funny thing about Velázquez, and why I think he's so powerful, is that he never shied away from painting deformity. So flattery and deformity, and to me, that's the idea with Velázquez, and I think that's why he was so popular, and why his style was recognized. Because, I mean, it could be just the painting of a king, and boring court portraits with just fancy robes and dresses. But the thing is, Velázquez had another idea in mind. Is, okay, I'm gonna flatter your ego, but I'm not gonna remove the deformity that make you who you are as an individual. Okay, you are the most powerful man on earth right now, but look at me. I'm staring at you right now. Look at me. I'm staring at you. I see you. I know you. I know who you are. I know how you look like. And I see right through you. And I'm going to paint all your deformity so well that it's not going to look ugly, first of all. It's not ugly. And it's going to look even more real than whatever you've seen before. So, I mean, the king was not pretty. He was not a nice looking man. I mean, seriously, no, we'll talk about this later. Come, don't freak out, guys. But look at this. It's not pretty, really. Well, you could wish for something better if you ask a painter to paint you. So nice mustache and all, but I guess he really looked like this. And that's the key element, is flattery, but never to the cost of painting each individual's deformity. And I think this is what is so natural about Velázquez. All right, so so talking about writing, writing to express feelings, emotions, and for fun. What type of underpainting did he use? I'm not very familiar, but I would say just a simple wash to get the drawing done. I would say this is the type of painter that didn't need a preparatory drawing. So basically just, I think, a wash of an earth pigment, like maybe raw sienna or raw umber. No idea really, but yeah. The Spanish royalty weren't known for their good looks. Yeah, but they could have hired a guy and say, okay, I'm gonna pay you an awesome lot of money, and I want you to make me look good. And that would be a challenge for a guy looking like this. I mean, how can you flatter a guy like this? It's hard. It's hard. The man didn't look really good. So instead of like removing imperfections, you make the imperfections part of the natural look of the entire thing. Because the guy, I think, had a real talent for piercing through. So in court, you have maybe the social interactions in court between the king and a servant, because he was supposed to serve the king. All right, so the social relation was full of how would you say that? Phoniness, full of, I don't know, full of appearance, full of false false reverence, if I might say so. But when the king is standing, the king becomes just a model, and the real guy in control is this guy. Finally, he stares. He can see what's happening, and he can really understand who the person in front of him is. Not as a king, not as a person like a superior person, but as a human being. I understand who you are as a human being because I understand your face, I understand your expression, I understand how you look, I understand how your eyebrows convey a sense of unease, of like you if you weren't the king, I mean, you probably wouldn't really be a very strong, powerful person. But you are the king. You have all these things, all this wealth. But who are you as a human being? Who are you as an individual? And this was the fundamental approach. Is flattery never takes away from depicting deformity. And Velázquez was very interested in painting deformity in all of its senses. And he was very interested, by the way, at painting little people. Like, so he has painted several portraits of little persons. I don't know if it's the right way to say it or not, but tell me if it is. So, yeah. So never, but it's in a very good way, though. In a very good way, in a very natural, in a very nice looking way, without any unnecessary flattery, just the broad work of a paintbrush with just a few drops of colors here and there, creating a very, very touching portrait. And that's the genius, I'd say, of the work. They did have egos. Well, I don't understand how this Spanish royalty, if they had such huge egos, how they could have agreed that a painter was going to paint them like this, like looking like this. I mean, you could ask for more. I don't know, like, let's say, for instance, like Rubens. When he painted royalty, he would like brush off tremendously, and basically you would have an idealized person in the place of the real guy. But people like Velázquez were really close to the actual character, and I think this is what worked, because at the time it was not that common to have a painter be as realistic and full of life, though. And I like the effect. Like, if you want to use this effect, you can. It's a very nice, you could say, atmospheric perspective. So basically, the closer it is from the foreground, and the sharper it gets, and the higher contrast between the lightest and darkest, and there the value range is much more condensed, and the edges are much more blurry. So it gives an impression of receding. It's pretty well known trick So of course, who who first, the little girl or the dog? Hmm. Uh, the dog. The dog is really cute. Look at this. Well, talk about achieving great effect with just a few simple brushstrokes. It's it's absolutely wonderful because you can really feel and understand that this dog was clearly taking a nap and that this girl is just disturbing this poor boy that just wanted to enjoy his little nap, but with so little brushstrokes that this makes it like close to like, well, this makes it genius. Let's call it that. Funny how just like a few random blobs of paint, boom, 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 and I think he must have painted that in a matter of minutes. In a matter of minutes, no unnecessary detail, very loose, very loose. Yeah, very good. All right, so hello, Barbara Loveless. Fighting a cold. Oh, I hope you get better. I have been. I'm still kind of. My voice is probably a little bit. Is still a little bit. A little bit. My throat is a little bit sore. Let's say that. Ah, I didn't try all your crazy recipes last time with rum and I don't know what you were saying, suggesting like garlic and things like this. So I didn't try this brewery. And yeah, so the dog is really awesome. Really like this dog. Personally, I find it really cute with just so little effort, which is probably what brought Velázquez his success, is probably how he made things look effortless. And it's always appreciated. It's always appreciated. All right, so here is the princess, of course. All right, very cute. This time, I mean, it's fair to say that she's very cute as a kid. She really looks like her though, so I mean, when you know the older portraits, you know that's perfectly dead on. This is also probably an indication for the success because it's all the portraits. Sometimes, like painters that make several portraits, you see like tiny variations from one to the other. But with Velázquez, you had such continuity in genuine likeness that you can know that this the likeness was dead on. All right, see you, le polar bear. Let me just check here. All right, seems like it works. Yeah, so this bold style in clothing and hair and detail, he didn't have this all the time. He started with a tighter style first. So loose versus tight, the timeless debate. Loose painting is when you keep apparent brushstrokes, whereas tight painting is when you work your surface until no more of the hand of the artist is visible anymore in the work. So definitely Velázquez was a loose artist, but it wasn't always like this. I think it's very successful in just providing the right amount of texture, not making it too boring though, and not making it too complicated. So this is also a sign that you have to be pretty unique, because at the time these people would pay a lot of money for these dresses. So it was not uncommon that they would really insist, like the commissioners would really insist that, oh, you have to paint this really well with much detail, and I'm gonna buy you the most expensive paint because I want the most expensive paint to paint my most expensive clothing. And on this Velázquezian approach, you have nothing of that. You have the most rudimentary pigments, painting in a very bold and very brushed off manner, which is an awesome thing. I think I cannot paint this way. I would love to, but I have to reinforce myself to paint in this type of way. So, all right, let's not stay too long on this painting. So let's just give it a quick look in terms of composition. Hello, Vox. What about hands? Hands are very, I think if Sargent was inspired by some painters for painting hands, it was probably Velázquez. Very bold, just like hair. Painting hands just like hair. Really just like the dog and everything. Everything is done with a very controlled brush handling. Wet on wet. So pretty cool. So let's talk about the composition. So basically you have center of focus here, of course. Another center of focus that you see probably in the end. It's basically rectangles all over the place. And you have this perspective here. So basically, you, the viewer, are at the spot occupied by the king. So you could say it was just Velázquez giving the king a painting where he is the primary viewer and even represented as a viewer in the painting. So it's a representation of representation. It's not just a representation. There's a backstory behind this. There's probably more than one, but there's one backstory that I know. So first version of this painting, there was no Velázquez here. And I think instead there was a young boy holding or handing some type of scepter of power or a symbol of the future power to the princess, because she was the only heir at the time. Or don't quote me on that, but the X-rays show that the first version didn't have Velázquez in it, and Velázquez came later. So because in the meantime, like in between, before this painting was finished, the king and queen had another baby, a male baby. So, and they wanted to remove the symbol of handing the symbol of power to the princess. So Velázquez just apparently placed himself there for that reason. But I don't know if it really took that much out of the primary point, which was to make a painting about a painting, which is a kind of Inception-like, if you think about it. So let's look at perspective. Perspective is driving us here, where the character. So yeah, it's pretty straightforward. Center of perspective is here. There would be just so much to say that I don't want to go too deep into this. But yeah, let's say that there's lots of ways of seeing. You could be seeing from the eyes of Velázquez, because he is the one looking straight into your eyes. She doesn't really count. I mean, she counts because she's the center of focus, but I don't think it's really about her. I don't think it's really about anything else. I think it's about more than that. It's about viewing the art becoming a thing, like a new thing. Like before, the art was just there to like depict a powerful person, but now with this painting, like the fact is that viewing itself is a thing. Like people are going to come to view this painting, is going to, and I think it's a favorite in the Prado, of course. Like, and this is probably why it's so strong and stays for that long. Artists used to earn for each hand. Huh, really? I didn't know that. And I don't know if it's the case for Velázquez. I didn't drink any grog, but yeah. Well, let's just leave this one, because I mean, it could start with a philosophical discussion, which some philosophers have had. So, but really, if you want to spend your time thinking about what is painting, what is art, what is life, what is emotion, what is a good painting, you could stare at this for a long time. But let's try to bring some older paintings. Let's start with an older example of his work. So this was what he did at first, like he's what he was when he was younger. So the funny thing is that the man is the official painter in court with lots of wealthy people, lots of wonderful things to paint, but he's still interested in the very simple people and painting genuine emotions. You would think that maybe the man holding the glass or the kid is the main focus of this painting. Well, that would be of course pretty logical, right? But I think that maybe this jar, or how you call that, this jar of water is probably the main focus. And these two actually. Okay, I don't think it goes. So that's masterfully painted. See, it was a lot sharper in the early times of his career. A lot of it is a lot more delineated, a lot sharper. You don't have this very bold brushwork all over the place. It's much more controlled. And I think that this this how would you call that? A jar of water? An amphor? I have no idea. I don't know the word, because in French we would call it jar, but I don't know if you say the same. I think it's so funny how it's a jar, okay, jar made with clay. Very useful to carry water because it's always fresh. And it's funny how it reflects on the character. And it's funny how the character looks like his jar. And I think it's not... sorry, I'm losing words because I'm trying to look at composition. Yeah, I think there's a strange likeness between the two. In Dutch, we call it krook. So it's a jar. Okay, so same word in French. We call it jar as well. In Spanish, it's cantaro. I hope I'm pronouncing it right. Pitcher. Ah, yeah, pitcher. I know this word. So very humble people, very simple. I've always enjoyed very much. I've always enjoyed wrinkles. It's very fun to paint. So if you want to paint someone, it's always easier to paint. Not easier necessarily, but it's always fun and interesting to paint people with wrinkles. The thing is, the look, the game on the looks, They're not looking at each other, but they're interacting. So what does it mean? And what, so the guy in the back, like receding in the shadows, staring at us, or what? What would you say? I have no answer for this painting, by the way. I'm just trying to see it as it comes. So it's funny that without considering everything that was happening in court, in the court of the King of Spain, he was still painting like very humble, modest people. And all the way, he did that his entire career. He painted people like this, not necessarily with the same style, but he kept painting like normal, everyday people in a more Caravagistic manner. No, Nightbot is not a real person, but I should turn it off sometime. Nightbot is controlled by me, but I think he's talking too much, I have to say. Now that I realize this, I don't look at chat too often. Okay, so let's look at another one. So I don't know about the backstory on this one. So it says Francisco Lezcano, el niño del Vallecas. Del Vallecas. I'm sorry if I hurt any Spanish ears right there. Didn't mean to offend anyone. So I don't know about the backstory. El niño de Vallecas. So I don't know about this story, but I find this this painting very good and very dynamic, first of all, but with not such a strong composition per se. More dynamic in just how things kind of turn. Maybe it's the balance that this person has, of course, considering his size, that makes it sort of naturally twirling. Maybe it's the all the clothing. I just find it dynamic in the pose, like the pose, maybe the look also from both. Like it's a little person, maybe not that used to looking at people from above, and that makes a very dynamic posture. I find this very, very effective in bringing energy. Maybe also the mouth open, which is which is a very hard thing to execute. An open mouth is it's hard to paint. So remember, guys, if you have to paint an open mouth, just do not paint the separation between teeth. It's not that dark. You always think that is darker than it actually is. Where did he learn to paint? He learned to paint in Sevilla. don't remember where what his or who his master was. He was very interested in Italian art, of course, and also Flemish art. So both influenced, both influence, both influences. All right, it's getting hard for me to talk now. So yeah, Flemish and Italian. So you have a double trouble, if we could say that. But his style is something quite never seen before in terms of maybe Friend's House, but I don't know how well known his art was. You could see that with Friend's House, this type of brushwork. I love the simplicity. Like, you don't see the eye; it's just a big bulb of paint. And yet it works really well. He was only 24 years old when he became the king's painter. Yeah, pretty early career there. Where did you get those photos of masters painting? Well, I searched the internet, but a portrait of the time and a timestamp for us. Restricted palette works so well. Yeah, it does. It does work. So for all of you who worry, oh no, I don't have any I don't know, blue. Well, you could paint that with ivory black, pretty much. Maybe there's a touch of blue there though. But considering that everything is connected, everything is in relation, sometimes you don't need too many colors. I mean, if there is blue here, it's just so little that, yeah, there's probably some blue right there. But basically, yellow ochre. So here, right there are some blue and yellow ochre, I think, for that type of color, or maybe some greenish earth tone. I don't know if he used any of that. Let me see. What's the white dot in his right eye? What is it? I think it's just a speck, like tiny particle of dust or whatever. I think it's not on purpose. So fine grain canvas. Because it's apparent right there. So tells you that he didn't do any underpainting at all. It's just a wash of diluted paint and building upon this this wet layer probably. All right. Looks like black. Florent, do you know what kind of mediums Velázquez used to use? So, in terms of fluid medium, so we talked a little bit about the calcium carbonate that he used in his paint, but it's not a fluid medium, it's a kind of powder. So it's marble dust, probably. And yeah, probably just oil and maybe a drying agent of some sort. I don't know. Oil, some type of turpentine thing, and a drying agent. I think very simple, because I mean, to paint like this, you don't really need that much. And considering the fact that many people, we often think about the old masters, like they had to have a medium as much as us. Not necessarily though, because we have to remember that what they did with their paint, that they have to grind it themselves and like mix it themselves. So they had to mix the oil and pigments together before painting every time, which means that well, you can add whatever you want to your paint. So Velázquez added some marble dust directly when he was mixing his powder pigments, and you add oil constantly to get the right consistency. So I think he got just up to the point where he needed the right consistency, and after that just a little bit of oil on the side, but really not that big of a medium usage, I think, if I had to guess. And I think that Velázquez did use a quite simple mixing process, because, like, you know, people in the early times of in the early times of oil painting did actually mix the paint themselves, but with very complex recipes. So they would add some resin already, like even in the very early times with Van Eyck, for instance. So they would grind the pigments and add resin directly, add some dryers directly, and create very complicated recipes, starting with the grinding step, not later. They didn't have a bottle of a medium like we do, adding it after. So they would just mix everything at once, or have their disciples do that. This hand is amazing. Forgets what a hand looks like and just looks. Yeah. Hello, Mr. Sniper. How is it going? Seems he started with transparent washes and then scumbled and painted opaque on top of that. Yeah, probably exactly the approach, Toby. I think it's the most dynamic way of painting this type of thing. But the thing is also that starting with a wash, and it's okay, everyone can do that, but you have to be very confident in your handling, in your sense of proportions, in your sense of values, to be able to keep some parts as they were in the very first step of the painting. Like, I mean, some parts are still just the raw canvas, just washed. You have to be pretty confident with your handling to paint something like this. So when you look very, very close, doesn't look good at all, but when you step back, it makes perfect sense. which is why I think it works. So you have to be very confident. It's not that easy, but it's very easy on the paper. Like, if you just think about it, yeah, just a simple wash, and then scumble some paint all over the place in this fresh wash of diluted paint, and then paint opaque on top of this. Simple, right? Yeah, when your name is Velázquez, it is simple. Le mec simple officiel. Hey, le mec simple officiel. It's quite a trick. You have to be just so confident, and you have to be so looking forward. So you have to be so perfectly accurate in your early sense of proportions. Like you cannot really miss, or you can, but it's not going to look the same. So you have to get things dead on. You have to get the right patches of value. So the approach was not linear at all. This is the thing. If you want to paint this type of things, it's not about linear. So it's not like, let's say you start with a pencil and you say, okay, I need to draw a line right there, and then I want, no, you don't want anything of this, of the sort. No, what you want, if you want this approach, is you want a broad approach. You say, okay, I'm gonna put a big patch of color right here, and right here, and here, and here, and okay, so how do I refine now? Okay, so I'm going to now refine, tinier brush, okay, right here, and of course I'm bad at painting with my computer, but you get the point. It's painting with mass, not painting with lines. So you have to use very broad mass of color. So, and how you get proportions if you want to paint with this type of way, it's that, let me just get back here. So if you, let's say you go too far, like your mass of color is too big, so you have to take some of the other one and make it a little bit smaller, and then you have to push it back again. It works awful with my demonstration, but you see the point. It's pushing paint from one side and from the outside and from the inside, and then from the outside again and from the inside again, and doing that, like the separation shifts and gets and progressively brings a better sense of proportions. And this is how you get this type of effect. You don't want any lines at all. You want direct painting. And it's pretty hard to do. You don't think that it's going to be this hard, but it is, because you are both doing painting and drawing and everything at the same time with just big masses of color. So you have to be in control of the consistency of your paint, the fluidity of everything, how much paint your brush can carry. You have to control so many things at the same time, because so many things can make everything go wrong and make everything look just like what I did, actually, when this could actually be what it looked like if you're not in control. Not exactly, though, but you get the point. So yeah, it's an amazing way of working. you tried it with a Sergeant copy, loved it. Yeah, it's a very, very enjoyable way of painting. But you have to... It is alla prima, actually. It is, yeah. I think there was no word for alla prima when well, there was probably, but it was not such a well-known method. Even in Italy, where it was born, it was used mainly for like studies, not really for main work. And Velázquez sort of took this a step further and put this element of alla prima in his actual painting. Manages to keep his darks really clean. I agree with you. And that's the good point of alla prima, is that you don't touch it too much. So basically it stays as it is on the first. Sometimes problem with the darks is that when you repaint over it and over it, it gets weird. But when you paint just one layer, it works quite well. Yeah, there's so many wonderful paintings to look at from Velázquez. Let's just which one? I don't know which one to choose, guys. Seriously. So what would you rather see? A portrait, like just a wonderful portrait, because he had many of them, very simple, not a royal portrait? Or do you want to see the famous Venus? What would you like? Or maybe a scene like the oh, there's many things. I don't know what to choose. So portrait or Venus? Yeah, the Venus of which is called the Rocker by Rockaby portrait, Her Majesty Barebone, Her Majesty Barebone. Stream has been up for an hour and 13 seconds. Portrait. Okay. One of my favorite portraits, Juan de Pareja, I hope I'm pronouncing it right, with such simplicity, yet a wonderful portrait. I mean, it's amazing that the palette was probably very limited for that, yet it looks very balanced. Not boring at all. I don't find it boring. Maybe you do, but I do not find this boring. I find this, just awesome in terms of composition, posture. Generally, you want your portrait to have a strong basis, and this drapery right there and right there makes it very solid, like super steady. Like, imagine if there was not this drapery, the actual body of this man is probably this thin. So this drapery kind of doubles the weight without making him look too fat or whatever. So really cool. I like the hair that naturally frames the portrait in a very pleasant manner, and the shadow and light happening in the background. Really cool portrait. Really like it. Really like it, and I like that it's oops, sorry. It's dynamic without overdoing it. I just think that this is the best example of how simplicity can achieve wonderful results. All right, let me just, okay. And yeah, I think all the color spawns in this face. I mean, the entire color of the entire painting. And this is the amazing part. Sorry, I'm just staring. Hello, Sam Scam. Saksham. Sorry if I mispronounced your username. Just started your first oil painting yesterday. Thank you for the nice comment, and yeah, I hope everything is doing well with oil paintings. How is it going? I just find this portrait, I don't know, there's something very emotional and very true. I think this portrait is like, it's not lying. There's something simple, no unwanted or unneeded detail right there, but still a good convincing impression of this. And the leather, I'm not sure. Yeah, I think it's leather. I don't know. But this texture here is also very well done. The guy is not posing in very rich clothing, but there's something very simple, and I think that if you were there at the time, sitting next to Velázquez as he painted this, you would have seen the exact same person, just like if it had come to life, so to say. And this is an amazing piece. Hi, Drenki. Been watching loads of videos in oil painting. I'm thinking of giving it a try, hoping you can convince me. Well, I'm not only hoping, I'm not going to convince you, but everyone in chat is going to convince you. Oil painting is awesome. I mean, it depends on what's your background, and have you been painted before? Because if you've been painting before, well, yeah, pretty much oil painting is just going to be the next step for you, I think. So the natural step. So let me know if you've been painting or not. If you've never been painting before, yeah, I would say probably it can be a rude thing to start at first. No, not necessarily though. Like start directly with oil painting. If you've been drawing a lot, drawing extensively, it's going to be an easy step right in oil painting. Seriously. Yeah, Drenki, thanks coming to my help. Just right, way better than acrylic, much more versatile. Much more versatile because of drawing time, because of consistency, texture, and because colors don't dry matte. And this is very important. Like, if this was acrylic, this dark right here that you see on this portrait would be much less intense, or you would have to use additives. Like, acrylic dries more matte, and oil dries more glossy. And that's just about it. So you'd think, oh, okay, it doesn't make a difference. Yeah, it does make a difference. It's just the same difference as with matte computer screens and glossy computer screens. You look it up, you'd see that more people, if you want better colors, more intense and vivid colors, you'd get a glossy computer screen. If you want less glare or more accurate vision of colors, because sometimes glossy makes colors so intense that actually it's hard to work. So sometimes like people working with photographs and all, or video, need actually matte screens because colors are more workable. They're not so over intensified. I don't know if it's a word, but I'm gonna invent it. So an oil painting is glossy, whereas all of the mediums are matte, which is a huge difference. It makes colors stay as they are. That's about it. It's not super glossy, it's not like shiny, it's not like mirror-like, just enough so that the colors that you mix on your palette are going to stay the same when they are on the canvas. And this is a very big deal, actually. You wouldn't think that. You say, oh, all right, a color is a color. Yeah, but what if you are mixing it and it's wet, and you come back 2 days later, it's dry and it has changed? Well, oil painting, thankfully, does not do that because it's naturally glossy. Well, you can have a loss in gloss, which is called which would call for you to oil out, which means you add a little bit of oil, but it's not. It's temporary. So yeah. I do photorealism pencil drawings, but I have dabbled in paint. Curious if I have ever used cold wax mediums in oil paintings. I have used to try it, but I haven't in my actual paintings. No, I've never felt any need for a matte finish. Like, you would use wax for a more matte look, because the wax kills the glossy element in the oil of oil painting, so it dries matte, brings some body and dries matte. So no, I have never used it. I don't really use it that much. Started with painting pencil drawings too, then I went to acrylic, hit a wall with that paint. Ow, that must hurt. Then switched to oil. Now I'll never go back. Thank you, Drinky. Alright, let's finish with the Venus so that YouTube can flag me for displaying nudity on screen. Because as it always does, YouTube does not make a difference between art and nudity and pornography. So, great composition, very famous painting, which has been compared very often to the Venus of Urbino by Titian, or I don't know which one. There's a similar Venus. No, maybe I'm confusing. So there's a similar Venus, similar composition. I would like to look it up, but I'm too lazy. So let's just say it like this. So, and this one has a pretty unique composition. Simple fact that she's turning her back, she's turning her back to the viewers, and there's again an intricate play of looks. She's staring at a mirror, looking at you. You're looking at her, but you're looking at her entire body. Whereas she probably can't see much of you. Like, so there's I don't know what could be made out of this symbolism. Maybe reflects an idea of chastity, but I don't think so. Wondering if cold wax can then be oiled up to return to gloss. No, not really. It's just the wax brings a molecular structure that's not the same as oil. So you have a mix of oil and wax, and the oil has this structure that does not help the light bounce just the same way as oil. So it cannot go back once you add some wax. It's going to dry a little bit more matte. That's it. That's what it does. I did a bit of watercolor, but basically dived right into oil painting. I find it hard but fun. Yeah, it's hard like every painting. I don't think acrylic, one thing's for sure, acrylic is not easier, that's for sure. Acrylic is easy maybe to... No, it's not even easier to clean the brushes with acrylic. Many people think it's gonna be easy, but I don't think acrylic is easier. Because, I mean, you let the acrylic brush dry, it's a pain. But oil painting, you have all the time in the world to do that. I like that painting. Looks like she's contemplating something. Yeah, or someone. The viewer himself. Unfair Rodriguez Ramos. The iPad Venus. Wow. So Velázquez was so in advance, was such a genius that he foresaw the iPad. And she's actually having face talk with someone. Hi, Polar Bear. Hello again. Odalisque. Oh yeah, similar to the Great Odalisque by Ingres. Is it what you mean? Yeah, just pretty cool painting, great brush handling. What I really do like a lot about this painting, because I like simple details. Sorry that the resolution is not enough. What I do enjoy a lot about this painting is this reflected lights right there. Very they look very chromatic. I don't know how it looks on the screen for you, but basically, like, it's skin reflecting upon itself. Very chromatic, very orangey, very warm, and it's probably a little bit overstated, but it just makes it pop, you know. And I really like this touch. Really like this touch. I really like how when it turns, it's warm. It's nice and warm. It's turning with chroma. It's turning with chroma, not values. Which, if you had this in black and white, it would make it much flatter. Let's try. I think I can try black and white. Almost black and white. See how it's almost flat? See how it's almost flat? So right now it's just like one big, huge, like patch of white, of light gray. There's no form, there's no turning around, there's no values. Right there you have painting. A very curvy, very delicious, curvy form without adding too much value. So there's no real use of value, and it's mostly color, chroma to be specific. The chroma shifts towards red around the shadows. Where the form is turning, it shifts towards red, and that makes it feel much more fleshy looking. So you don't necessarily need to go darker to convey this idea of form turning. You can use other elements of color, not only values. Oh, I've got other cool filters though. Ooh, nice. I don't know what. Okay, stop. Ridiculous. Okay. Yeah, but really cool painting. I like this one. I look tired. Probably because I still have the same cold that I had last time. It's not gone. But yeah, I'm not gonna stay for too long. Actually, I think I'm gonna go pretty soon. But I was just staring at them. Sometimes, when I'm doing this show, it's I talk a lot because I have to comment on what I'm seeing and comment what my ideas are and all. But sometimes I could just stare at a painting like this for hours. I mean, this is why I generally like museums, like free entry museums, and I do not really go to any museums where you have to pay. It's not because I'm cheap or whatever. It's because sometimes I go to a museum and just sit in front of one painting for like the next 4-5 hours. Like, I mean, no kidding, like maybe not 4 or 5 hours because I have to eat, like 2 or 3 hours. No kidding. And so generally I have my sketchbook and all, but I'm not necessarily copying or drawing or sketching. I might sketch some things, but I could just also just stare and contemplate a painting that I enjoy until I kind of made it mine. I don't know if it's it's so yeah. But so sometimes when I'm doing this live show, I have moments of absence where I just have weird looks like this, or sometimes I do this because I'm trying trying to find the values, you know. Sometimes I do this, or sometimes I could just look at in a mirror way with my cell phone like this. I mean, why? I don't know, because I do that for my own painting, and I have to just watch intensively at things. It's always good to watch intensively and obsessively. Obsessively is the point, I think. You cannot achieve anything great if you do not have the power of obsession, like being obsessive in doing anything, like painting obsessively and looking at a painting, okay, but looking for 3 hours. I mean, you sometimes, if you want to go deeper into the secrets of masters like Velázquez, a simple look is not going to be enough. You cannot just look at it like for 10 minutes and say, okay, I'm done. Not even like many people in museums. I've never understood that. They have these museums have huge collections, and well, of course I understand if people have paid for the entrance, they want to see as much of the museum as possible. But that's really I mean, walking around just like missing most of the paintings, it's a shame for me. But I mean, that's how it is. I mean, you have just limited time to visit the museum, so you want to see as much as possible. See, I'm staring again. I'm staring, and I'm trying to think about the symbolism of these how you call that, laces. I have a habit of staring at paintings too. Alright, so I'm not the only one. Thank you, Drenky. Only ever been to one gallery, the Tate Liverpool, to see Dali's work. Oh, it's dedication to seeing one thing. I mean, to me, it works. I mean, just walking around in a museum is yeah. See you, MacPaulins. Sorry, I didn't have time to say goodbye. I didn't see the message. Vox, I also have the same looking for hours at paintings. Alright, I'm not the only one. Ribbons, okay. Yeah, ribbons. I have the word in my head, just didn't want to come out. Alright, I think that's gonna be it, guys. So I'm gonna take a holiday break, and I hope that you have a wonderful holiday season with all the best love and luck and and joy in the world that I can wish you guys. And yeah, this is going to be the last of 2017. Wow, already 2017. We are going to say goodbye to 2017 and see each other is better, in 2018. Hopefully I can speak proper English in 2018. I wish you guys a wonderful holiday season and take care. Bye everyone, you're awesome.